What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome to The Sweat, our favorite weekend show here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. We got a very good-looking crew here this morning. We got myself, we got Julian, we got Claudia joining the show as well, making a weekend appearance. Normally you'll see her on Gojo and Golic right here on DraftKings Network and VSiN, but happy to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. Jules is here.
You know that Emerson is going to be very offended that you're saying this is the good-looking crew, though. You know he's watching.
What if I said this is the good-looking crew, but when you're not here, I say this is the great-looking crew?
Okay, you know what? Point taken.
To be fair, that is not said when he's not here, though. All right, let's talk about what's coming up on the... Go ahead.
I was going to say, great to have Claudia here, but it's worth noting, Emerson's not out of town or anything.
It was
He's
his
like
birthday,
a block away at
though.
his apartment. I know, but like, what are we, like, what did he turn 21?
He may have.
He probably treated last night like he did turn 21. Except it starts with a 4 instead of a 2.
And if that's the case, it took him 1 beer. Okay, let's talk about what's coming up on the show. Let's take a little peek at what we got coming up here. Plenty of NBA talking about, as always, the all-important Game 3. We're going to be reacting to last night's game and then what's going to be happening today. We're going to do a little put up your bukes. My segment here, former collegiate baseball player joins. That is a very strong title for somebody who did not perform well at that level. And then next major up, the PGA Championship preview. You got it, girl. We're going to be talking about that as well. But as we always do here on the show, we're going to get to what we're warming up to, what we're thinking about here early this morning. Julian, you said you have something really good to start off the show here this morning. What is your warm-up bet, storyline, whatever you want to get into?
Well, full transparency, I've been searching for what I'm going to warm up about because as we
like
keep talking about basketball, yeah, my computer was very cold for a night. It is now warmed back up. Very cold in the locker outside the TD Garden, all on its lonesome. We're down to 4 basketball series. I'm going to talk plenty of NBA on the show, but I don't know if there's anything necessarily there that I'm warming up about. What I am starting to look at is it's that time of year where the board whittles down. I'm starting to look at football futures. How am I going to approach that? Both NFL and college football. And we've touched on it on the show a little bit, week by week. You know, let's talk some divisions. Let's talk win totals that open and so on. But markets are starting to open up where we can start to take some of this stuff, even cross-sport from NFL to college football, and parlay some of these open markets. So this is when I start to build some different stuff out that I really like. For example, the Chiefs to win the division, that's minus 225. It's probably not something I'm going to bet straight. It's a little bit juicy.
Sure.
But the Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, that's not happening unless that's not happening unless Patrick Mahomes gets hurt.
Sure.
Like, that's the one way that division isn't won. So, like, what types of things do I want to put that with? So you can go cross-sport, college football playoff, expanding to 12 teams this year. Who got left out of the field last year? Arguably the best team in college football, Georgia, after that SEC championship loss to Alabama. Georgia's minus 600 to make the college football playoff. Not something I'm betting on by itself. But you throw the Chiefs to win the division and Georgia to make the college football playoff together, you're looking at minus 147. And that's something I'm really confident on both legs. So that's just an example, I guess, of you know, both the markets and how you can utilize those markets that are coming on the board. Because, you know, that's not something that you can get everywhere where you can parlay those types of markets together. And I think that you can take some legs that you're really confident in, whatever we are, 4 months from football,
right?
A little less, and get them together early before they start moving.
So just real quickly, because you mentioned that the only way the Chiefs don't win the division is if Patrick Mahomes is hurt.
I would think.
There is a lot of controversy going on with Rice. Where would that team have been without Rice last year? Because really, without Rice, that's a much different looking team. So are you still that confident with everything going on with Rice?
It's a good thing that the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy, who is the fastest receiver in the draft. And I have faith that he can step right in and produce a similar season, mostly because he's going to be getting the ball from Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say.
But so were MVS, and so were.
I mean, that wasn't a mistake. They knew what they were doing.
I'm saying they're lucky in this case that Rice, if he does not play.
It continues to get worse and worse for Rice. As I keep hearing about other incidents, like he was beating up a photographer, allegedly, by the way.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Not the greatest look. But they made that pick with it in mind that things could get worse, knowing there was some apparent character flaws there, and they've kind of seemed to play out.
All right, Claudia, what are we thinking about?
First of all, of course, we have the playoffs. Hockey's going on, basketball, but you're doing football parlays out here. What's wrong with you?
Well,
I'm kidding. You want to find the value now? I get it.
We got to mix it up. We're going to talk all those things.
I'm hot on the Celtics and the fact that they can't seem, to keep a game close. They either want to blow out a team by 25 or lose by 24. And my issue with them is they get complacent, and I talked about this on Gojo and Golic this week. Because they were so successful in the regular season and they met those expectations, they can always fall back on that. Well, yeah, okay, we just lost this game by 24, but it was a game 2, and did you see what we did in the regular season? That's all well and good, but it is the playoffs, buddy. And what happened the last 2 years, we don't want to see that again. That Cavs 24-point win was the biggest in the playoffs by a double-digit underdog. They were catching 13 in the hook in that game since 1991. And I get it, ebbs and flows. It's basketball, it's playoffs, it's a 7-game series. But Karis LeVert should not be getting 21 off the bench. They should not be getting 60 points in the paint when they don't have their big man. And Jarrett Allen, and this is not a Porzingis thing. It's just not. You can play defense without him. So if Allen comes back, then this situation gets a lot hotter than we thought it would. So I'm just hot about the Celtics in general. Mitchell scoring 29 is not a surprise. Mobley has stepped up big. I'll talk about him later on. 21 points for him, 10 rebounds. All of that's okay. That is expected. But the outlier is the 60 points in the paint, the bench players putting up 21, and the Celtics seeming to do what they did in the regular season when they got behind, because we all know that they're going to win the next 5 games, and they might win Game 7. They took the foot off the brake. And I don't know if this is bias, being a Celtics fan, being at that game and watching them sort of crumble, but they do seem to just give up. So I'm hot about that. I do think they'll bounce back, and I know we'll talk about that game a little bit later on, but I'm hot, guys. I'm hot about it.
Are you worried about that if they continue to not shoot well beyond the arc like they did in that last game, that's going to continue to be an issue? Because they took, I think, the most attempts in the league during the regular season.
Yeah, well, I mean, they took 37 threes a game, but the thing was that was working, and that's why they only had, whatever it was, 14 losses. So I think it is funny when people are up in arms about it. That's what worked for them. So I think that's fine. It was nice to see Tatum adjust at times and take it to the basket and not just settle for the 3. So I'm not worried about this team. What I am worried about is if they get through, and knock on wood, when they get through the Cavs, if they have to face a team like the Knicks, who is going to be a much tougher competition. Brunson, if he's healthy, is going to be a little bit more to handle. And yes, they don't have the depth, but they got that dog. And right now, the Celtics don't. So that worries me.
Do you have a follow-up?
Just that, and we'll talk about it more on the show, but this is the spot where you get on the Celtics over the last 3 postseasons, when they have generally played pretty well in the postseason, but they do slip up from time to time, and when they have these embarrassing games where they totally let go of the rope, they generally come in with a lot more focus. And you ask Steve if it's a concern. What if the threes don't go down again? They're going to shoot a lot of them, and it's pretty rare that they miss them 2 consecutive games, and that the Cavs are going to make them at a good clip. The only stretch where the Celtics have played poor basketball over consecutive games, really, outside of the finals against the Warriors, losing 3 in a row, was going down 3-0 to the Heat, which I thought was a weird outlier in the conference final last year. But if you go back and look at like Celtics losses over the last postseason, or a few postseasons, a lot of them are followed up by wins of 15, 20, 25. Not that the thing is, that's a normal game though. That's what they had been doing in a lot of these other games, is blowing out. So they just kind of flip the switch and get right back to business, coming off a loss in the postseason.
I mean, there is a reason, if you're looking at the odds, that the Cavs are still 7-1, although the series is tied up.
Sure.
Like, the odds makers know there's a reason the Celtics are laying 8 in this game. I think they might be hesitant if this game's closer to, have them lay double digits again, because during the regular season, we saw it last year too. They just didn't cover. It was always either a backdoor cover or a complete blowout, for all the things I mentioned before. They're okay with resting the guys. Joe's fine with resting the starters to get those bench guys some minutes if the game isn't crucial, if it's not a Game 6 or a Game 7. So just keep in mind, don't overreact to a Game 2. I know it was weird to see such a swing, but hey, we're seeing it with the Bruins too. That's just playoff hockey, right? Or playoff hockey and basketball.
We have a lot of NBA talk coming later in the show, to make sure to stay tuned for that. Just real quickly from mine, just want to talk about this NL East situation that we have going on between the Phillies and Braves. Braves are still pretty big overall favorites to win this division. They're minus 250 right now. I believe that's the second best odds to win a division. The Phillies are heating up at the right time when the Braves are faltering at the wrong time right now. If you don't know, and I'm sure you don't know, the Phillies' schedule for the rest of the month is abysmal. It is absurd. The schedule that the Phillies have coming up for the rest of the month. They're in this series now with the Marlins. They face the Mets, the Nationals, the Rangers, the Rockies, the Giants, and end with the Cardinals. If you were thinking about taking the Phillies to win the division, this is probably your shot right now when they're still 2-1 to win this division. Braves are having issues on the offense. Obviously, no Spencer Strider. The rotation doesn't look as strong as it did before the season began. The Phillies team is clicking and firing on all cylinders right now. If you didn't get in on that when we talked about that a month ago, when I said with Strider out, this might be your time to hedge or get in on this, time's a ticking. I think the time is running out now on the Phillies. This team is just absolutely rolling right now. All right, we're going to take our first break here on The Sweat. When we come back, we'll have more to talk about here, all sports, and we're going to do some NHL as well. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Sweat, everybody. I'm Emerson Lotzie. It is damn good to have you here. It is time to talk some sticky puck. It is time for another glorious edition of Opening Face-Off, baby. Two hockey heads joining us. Jeff Ulrich at DK Network. Pete Jensen of NHL.com. Gentlemen, Game 4 between the Rangers and the Hurricanes tonight. the Hurricanes and his preseason cup pick. Ugh, not looking good right now. New York, one victory away from the sweep, Jeff Ulrich. How big of an edge are you giving them tonight?
I mean, yeah, you've obviously got a Carolina squad who's down 3-0 and the back's against the wall. Like, there's no pressure anymore because they're just basically in a do or die situation. So, what is there to worry about? I mean, they've also just carried the edge in this game. So, or in this series in terms of shots on goal, chances created over the last 2 games. I mean, firing so many shots on Shesterkin. Definitely frustrated, but I give a slight edge to Carolina in this spot just because of the circumstances. I would personally, lean them pushing this to at least game 5.
All right, Pete, how the hell does Carolina save its season tonight here? On paper, yes, you look at the 3-0 series lead for the Rangers, but on paper, it's like, damn, how is Carolina down 3-0 here? This seems like a pretty even series.
It is. Every game's been close. 2 of them have gone to overtime. 1 of them's gone to double overtime. The problem is that Carolina is 0 for 15 on the power play in the series. I mean, that is just ridiculous in not a good way. I can't believe that. The Rangers didn't even score a power play goal in game 3. They still won. So first order of business, when you get those opportunities like they had, late in the game against the Rangers in game 3, the power play was just dreadful. I think Sebastian Aho missed the net on that one decent chance by about 5 feet. I'm just not sure what's going on there. I thought the series was going 7. With that shots on goal discrepancy in Carolina's favor, though, they do have bounce back appeal, at least in game 4, maybe even to stretch this thing further. But so far, Shesterkin has just shut the door completely on this team.
How about this? 94, the Rangers started the playoffs 7-0. What'd they do that year? They won the Stanley Cup. Rangers 7-0 in the playoffs right now, entering game 4 tonight. Let's rewind it back to game 2 real quick. Jeff, I'm going to direct this question at you because I know you have that angry Canadian passion inside of you. So Rangers captain Jacob Trouba went for it all, nearly knocked himself out in the process. He going for what looked like a absolute knockout, dirty attempt here on a body check to Martin Necas. How close was the Rangers captain to being suspended there?
He was pretty close to knocking himself out of the entire playoffs, I would say. I mean, let's just put aside the fact that he was coming in at about the speed of sound into that hit, which alone would have, probably put Necas, into potentially the concussion protocol. But then putting the elbow out and trying to decapitate the guy on his way down. I mean, this could have been extremely bad. I mean, we don't see these kind of hits anymore because of the player safety protocols, just because the culture has changed a little bit. But this harkened back to kind of like the late 1990s kind of stuff that we used to see, like the hits to the head. This could have been terrible. And in terms of like, should he have been suspended anyways? Yeah, I do think he should have been. There's just such a clear intent with that elbow to come out and hurt the other player that, man, I mean, it could have been terrible, to be honest. But Trouba probably lucky that Necas saw him and got out of the way, because I really think that he could have been gone for a prolonged period. So, yeah, disaster averted in multiple angles. Obviously, we're glad Necas is okay. But, man, yeah, that bad move by Trouba, man. I mean, just absolute nonsense. Like, you just don't see it. We shouldn't see it in the game anymore.
Yeah, I had that elbow connected. We'd probably be talking about a potential 5+ game suspension right now. Let's get to a cleaner series here. Pete, Stars did a great job of putting that game 1 loss to Colorado behind them. They evened up the series after a win in game 2. So what do you expect to go down tonight? Game 3 as the series shifts here to Colorado, the Mile High.
I think Colorado has a pretty clear advantage in this series if they're able to start any of these games a little bit stronger. They've pushed both of them to the brink. They came back in game 1. They almost came back. They cut it to 4-3 in game 2 before the empty netter, right? So, and that's with the Colorado Stars being a little quiet in that game. Now they go back home where they were 31-10 in the regular season and 2-0 in the first round. This is probably the single most dominant home team in the NHL. They're leading the NHL playoffs in high danger goals this season, goals in general. We all know they blew Connor Hellebuck out of the building each time he played him. So, yeah, I just feel like Colorado is the team to beat right now in the Western Conference, especially with how, Edmonton, who was proclaimed the favorite at the start of the second round, looked pretty bad in game 1.
Oh, Jeff. Wow. Shots fired there, big man, huh? Which side you backing tonight, Jeff?
I mean, there's no lies detected in that statement. Trust me. So no, not shots, just facts. Look, I'm pretty much in lockstep with Pete here, though. Like what the Avalanche put out in round one, and I mean, like, if you're the Dallas Stars, I mean, it's tough here. Look at going into Colorado, whereas Pete mentioned, like they were basically the best home team, and just in terms of pure record, it's obviously just a tough environment with the thinner air as well. But Colorado handled Dallas pretty well too. I mean, Dallas had that one big win over them at the end of the regular season, but like they've had to outscore Colorado. Colorado's put up a ton of goals every time they've played Dallas, and they're creating offense, at an extreme rate again. I mean, they really haven't slowed down in the playoffs. I think that even just looking on the DraftKings Sportsbook, like -130 seems like a pretty fair price for a team that was so good at home. Definitely the team I would say has the biggest edge in terms of home ice. I think the over is probably in play for this series again. I mean, they've got to Ottinger again in game two. I know it was towards the end, but Dallas's offense obviously still cooking pretty good. I think we're just going to get another entertaining game here, probably some kind of like 5-3, 6-4 game. And I definitely lean Colorado. I think that they should have been the favorite coming out of round one. And I still think there's probably value in chasing them. I really like their chances to come out of the West.
Jeff, keep your eyes on the DK Sportsbook for this next question. How live are all 8 teams to win or even make the cup right now? Or they all have a legit shot, or there's maybe still some pretenders pretending right now?
I mean, look, we're going to go through team by team and really get picky. I mean, I think that, the stronger teams lie in the West. Like if I was taking a pure Stanley Cup champion, it would probably come from the West, and it would probably start with Colorado. But certainly, like the Stars, I mean, I've shorter odds in Colorado right now. So obviously, like odds makers, and there's some people who don't agree with me out there necessarily that Dallas is potentially stronger. East, I really think it's the Rangers right now. They're riding Shesterkin. They're playing better overall. They got great special teams. Not quite a believer in Florida yet, although if they can dismantle the Bruins here and quickly, that'll change. But I think that, when you're really looking at the cream of the crop, it's probably between that Dallas-Colorado series and the Rangers right now. I think everyone else needs to kind of show us something if we're really going to talk about them as serious cup winners.
All right, Pete, who is atop? Which team is atop your cup contender rankings right now?
That's a tough one. I would probably lean with Colorado just because they have a healthy and productive Valerie Nichushkin, who's been unreal with the goal scoring. Lekkonen's been great as well. My knocks on Colorado going into the first round, like they didn't have as much structure as Winnipeg. They were not nearly as deep, I thought, as a lot of the other top teams around the league. And their goaltender, Georgiev, has been suspect in certain games in years past and certainly this season, but all those guys have been looking good so far. So I've kind of changed my tune on the Avalanche a little bit. And Emerson, in regards to your other question about whether all the teams out there are alive right now, I would answer yes, because even look at what Vancouver did with the upset against Edmonton in game one. They have a home ice in the series. They have that extra wrinkle where if Thatcher Demko comes back at some point, that could help them reach another gear. They've shown the comeback ability with that game and also that epic comeback in Nashville in game 4 of the first round. And then even with Carolina, like they appear to be down and out right now, but with their shot attempts percentage metrics and their tried and true style, I could envision a scenario where they become maybe the 5th team in NHL history to come back from 3-0 in a series to win that best of 7, which would be incredible. It's against the odds, but I think everybody still in play has a chance here.
All right, gentlemen, a little more than a minute to go in this show. Just real quick, we have 6 head coach openings in the NHL right now, including 2 clubs that made the playoffs just this year. Which team is most appealing in your eyes, Pete?
I think that if you're talking long-term, maybe having like Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith is an appealing thing, but I'm talking, that's probably like 5+ years down the line. NHL coaches don't usually last that long. So I think the clear answer is the Maple Leafs. We still haven't seen the Maple Leafs with, like a real past. I guess Babcock was, but like we haven't seen them lately with this current core, having a championship caliber coach. Craig Berube would be a great fit. Maybe Bruce Boudreau or someone else deeper down the line. I've just always wanted to see that team get over the hump.
Jeff, Kings, Devils, Sharks, Kraken, Leafs, and Jets. Which one would you want?
Oh, Devils for sure. Jack Hughes with a great young core. The fact that team's not in the playoffs right now hurts me a little bit. I think they have a really good future, though. I would definitely choose New Jersey. With a shout out to the Sharks. Why not, if you're a new coach, just start completely clean, nuke everything? But yeah I would definitely choose the Devils. I think that's a great spot.
Yes, it's February 2022. 28 of the 32 clubs in the league have made a change at the position. That is an unbelievable coaching carousel. Gentlemen, your job here is done. Thank you so much. Paul Skeens' job, though, is just getting started in Pittsburgh. So we got the Pirates phenom set to make his big league debut today. Our crew will share with you their expectations for the #1 pick when we step inside the bettor's box coming up next.
never seen a pitcher like this.
This is a franchise turner.
Stuff, I don't even know how to describe this stuff. Whatever grades you want on it. Fastball regularly in triple digits. We saw the breaking ball.
Welcome back to The Sweat here on VSiN DraftKings Network. We got a big baseball card today, as we do every Saturday, but the story in MLB right now, number one overall pick by the Pirates last summer, Paul Skeens, being called up after doing some solid work in AAA this season. We got plenty of specials available on DK Sportsbook, but real quick before we get into those, just reaction to the excitement of him coming up, Steve.
I mean, this is probably the most anticipated debut for a pitcher since maybe Steven Strasburg.
That's the one I was
with the Nationals. Like, this is a big deal. And like, for somebody to be the number one overall pick last year, be making his debut already this year. I mean, quite frankly, when he was drafted last year, they probably could have thrown him a glove and go like, oh, why don't you start tomorrow? And he would have been ready to go. But the reason he's coming up already is because this is someone who's just absolutely dominated already through 7 starts in AAA, 27 1/3 innings, only 3 runs allowed on 17 hits, 45 strikeouts. That gives him a K9 of 14.8. That is just absurd. If a guy's hovering around like 10 or 11, like that's thought of as elite in this day of baseball. So to be almost approaching 15 through 27 1/3 innings is remarkable. He's going to have a ton of coverage over that next few months.
So his strikeout rate is ridiculous, which kind of makes the question, how many pitches is he going to throw if we're going to be betting the strikeout prop today? So, Claudia, I know we got some wild specials also. You can see 14 plus strikeouts is one available for Paul Skeens. We got a whole specials tab on him. What catches your eye, Claudia?
Yeah, so 6.5 is the line. You can get even money to the over. And I usually don't bet 2 things, debuts and guys coming off of injury, but in this situation, you couldn't pay me to bet the under. I probably wouldn't even do it with your money. Like Steve just talked about, sub-1 ERA, 45 strikeouts in AAA. Fastball averaging over 100. He has thrown all but one of the fastest pitches in AAA this year, 104 of 105. So if you're questioning, should he have been pulled up this early, I think he'll be okay. Elite command control, the power is there. So I just can't push myself to bet the under on that. I'd usually stay away in most cases, but Paul Skeens looks like he's going to be a different type of situation. So I do lean over there.
Plus 105 now on that over 6.5 Ks for Skeens' debut. And I know both of you guys were talking about, we have a season-long number posted on Skeens' strikeouts on DK Sportsbook, 109.5. That pretty much comes down to is how long he's going to be up pitching, right, Steve?
I mean, it feels like an obtainable number when you think about how many strikeouts he was averaging already, but it's like, how aggressive do the Pirates want to be with him as he's so young? The Pirates are obviously not playing for particularly a playoff spot right now. Could that change as time goes on? Sure, but I think they're going to be very, very careful with him.
And I will say, too, with that K prop, if you're new to K props, you want to look at the pitcher, but the lineup matters a lot too. Cubs right now, 23.2 K rate, so little above average, around 13th highest. So I do like that matchup. As far as the season long goes, again, if I'm betting something where I have to wait till the end of the season, it better have a nice, juicy payout, because injuries are such a big concern. I had a massive bet, not massive, but one of my bigger futures on Strider. Was really hoping that he'd stay healthy, because that number seemed way too low, and you know what happened. So to be honest, when it comes to all futures, I stay away. There's not 120 guys, I think, who had more than 110 last year, better than Paul Skeens if he comes to be what he has been over the last years and in AAA. So I'm not going to really answer that question, because I just wouldn't bet it. But it is too low if everything seems to be true for him.
The baseball tip is you go under on the season-long case. Jacob deGrom, season-long strikeouts under, was my ATM for a 3-year window. It would come out at like 240 every year. It was stupid.
He talks about this bet. It happened like 9 years ago. Like we got to move
last year. I cashed on it last year, and the money train is over. All right, there's baseball games today. The Diamondbacks are playing at Camden Yards in Baltimore. I asked Steve before the show, hey, Steve, is John Means good? He said no. That's why you're betting the Diamondbacks over 3.5 runs.
I would say John Means is fine, but maybe not in this particular matchup going up against the Diamondbacks. No. You just misunderstood. You walked in late.
I misunderstood.
You were confused. Can't keep track of your computer anymore. We're betting the Diamondbacks to go over
right here.
3.5 runs today, going up against John Means and the Orioles. The Diamondbacks are one of the best hitting clubs when it goes to facing left-handed pitching. John Means just recently returned from the IL here, but in a tough matchup. Like I mentioned, the Diamondbacks are really good against lefties. 377 WOBA, 137 WRC plus. Both are the best in the league against lefties. You look at the three main pitches that John Means throws when he's on the mound: changeup, four-seamer, and slider. In that order, in particular. You put all those pitches together. The Diamondbacks combined against those three pitches are hitting .321 with a 395 WOBA and a .537 slugging percentage. This team total is too low. Give me over for the Diamondbacks today against John Means.
All right, I think when most people are betting a strikeout prop over 6.5 today, they're going to be looking at that Paul Skeens one. But Claudia, you have your eye on another pitcher going over 6.5 Ks.
Yeah, another young, and I do like this over specifically because of the matchup, and not that this has anything to do with the team itself, but I just thought you should know when it comes to the Oakland Athletics, there are 553 teams with better attendance records than this squad. They trail their own AAA affiliate.
Oh, come on.
They trail a team in the Professional Volleyball Association. They have the lowest attendance in Major League Baseball in 45 years. And they also are not good. They also have one of the worst offenses in baseball. Now, Bryce Miller, K-rate top 25% of pitchers, sub-3 ERA. This year is fastball one of the best in the league. Struck out 10 in his debut against this squad last year, and they're not any better this year. Fourth highest K-rate against righties. I like this play a lot for both sides of things, pitcher and lineup.
What I learned from that is I wish we could bet over-unders on A's attendance.
I would hammer the under.
I don't even know what the line could be set at.
Set it at 4.5.
12.
All right, Washington Nationals. I believe they're the most profitable team on the money line so far this season. They are right here in Boston on Saturday afternoon, Steve, but you're looking at the total.
Yeah, I like the total on this one. This has actually come down to 8 runs. It was at 8.5 this morning when I was looking at this, but down to 8 here. And specifically, I want to target this matchup for the Red Sox going up against Jake Irvin. Jake Irvin has some crazy splits here. He's been so good against righties, but really, really poor against lefties. And the Red Sox can really load up on those left-handed bats this afternoon here. He has a 357 WOBA going against left-handed bats so far this season. The Red Sox probably have about 5 of them in their lineup today. You got Duran, Devers, Abreu, and then probably Dom Smith, and then maybe Reese McGuire too as well to catch. And he throws a ton of fastballs, and Boston has been doing very well against that pitch. Against righties, they are hitting 275 against that pitch, 366 WOBA. So I think this is a bad spot for Irvin. You got Cooper Criswell going for the Red Sox as well. Really just kind of making spot starts here as they kind of make their way back with Bayo being injured here. But I think this is going to go over 8 runs, so give me the over in this game.
All right. This is one that I had my eye on. Cleveland going up against the White Sox today. The White Sox have been the epitome of brutality. Mm-hmm. Claudia, where are you looking in this game?
Yeah, and you talked about return on investment. Guardians right now top 5 when it comes to this play. That would be first 5 run line. Yep. I'm going to go to be up by a run around even money. I also like Tristan McKenzie over 5.5 Ks at plus 125. I think there's good value there, but I'm just bringing the juice down. You could go money line if you see value there. I don't at minus 160. It's the top of the AL Central against the bottom. This is just a gross division in general, but the White Sox for sure the grossest offense in baseball. Mike Clevenger just second start, but in the first allowed 6 hits and just 2 innings against Tampa, 4 walks, no strikeouts. So right now 13.50 ERA. That doesn't mean anything when you have 1 start, but he didn't look good, and he struggled last year with command and control. So I'm going to fade him, back Tristan McKenzie for the Guards. 6 or more Ks in 4 straight, no more than 2 earned in all of those. So I like the bump matchup, and then again, just fading this White Sox offense. But I'll split it and just go first 5. Nice, quick, easy bet.
I bet baseball when I'm in the mood to torture myself, but if I take a side today, it is going to be Cleveland. So I agree with Claudia there. Steve, you are in the same game, and you got to play on the total.
I like the over in this one here at 7.5. Like, we're talking about the White Sox being one of the worst offenses. Mm-hmm. They're on a heater. They've won 3 in a row. The White Sox have won 3 in a row, which is great for our Rockies worst team in the league bet. So you keep winning, Chicago. You keep doing your thing. But Tristan McKenzie, while he's got a lot of talent, there's one thing in particular that really bothers me about him. He puts a ton of men on base. He has a 5.5 walks per 9 innings so far this season. Last year, he only pitched 16 innings, but he walked 13 batters in those 16 innings. So the command can definitely be an issue here. You got Clevenger, who Claudia was just talking about, definitely has a lot of issues himself here. He was much worse at home last year. In particular, had an ERA of over 4.5, 337 WOBA there, and 8 of the 16 home runs that he's allowed. Cleveland, by the way, has also been one of the most profitable teams at hitting the over on their game total. They are 21, 16, and 2 on the year at hitting the over on their game total. This just feels a little too low for me with McKenzie and Clevenger, 2 guys who definitely can lose their command. Give me over 7.5 for this game.
All right, we are going to talk more baseball later in the show when Steve puts up his Bukes against Nick Fryer. But on the other side of this break, Emerson and Chinmay are going to talk a little bit of soccer.
Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody. I am Emerson Latzia. Lots of stuff going down in the sports world right now, including on the pitch. Yeah, that's right. Football is life, which means we have the one, the only, Chinmay Vaidya here of DK Network to help us out. Top of the morning to you, Chinmay. Good to see you. I see you got the Arsenal red behind you already.
Yeah, I can't wear the Arsenal red this time, so I just put it behind me. But it's been a fun close to the season all around in domestic soccer and even European soccer, which I'm sure we'll get to. So excited to talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it, because let's start with your Arsenal team here, man. In action tomorrow against Man U. So 1 point up on Man City in the table ahead of next week's final game. How do you like Arsenal's chances to win tomorrow?
You know, Arsenal won 3-1 earlier in the year. They've won 3 of the last 5 meetings against Manchester United. But as we've talked about before, Man United are one of the most inconsistent teams, one of the most hot and cold teams in the Premier League. And they're getting some key guys back. Marcus Rashford is set to come back. Lisandro Martinez is set to come back. And Old Trafford has always been a tough place to play for Arsenal. Man United still have a slight chance to get to Europa League next year. They're a bit down in the table. So I do expect this to be a bit of a tough game, but I'll still take the Gunners on the money line. I think there's a clear focus with the Premier League title. There's no Champions League to worry about, no other cups to worry about. Gunners are focused on potentially being in that title spot. So I'll take them on the money line, even though I expect this to be a tough contest.
Okay, well, we got Man City in action as we speak here, Chinmay, against Fulham. So assuming Man City takes down Fulham and potentially keeps pace with Arsenal if they win, this sets up a huge game on Tuesday against Tottenham. So will Man City take them down and take the lead in the standings? You tell me, soccer man, what's the bet?
It's funny how Arsenal fans are now rooting for Tottenham to potentially steal a point against Manchester City for this title race. It's a short turnaround for Man City for sure, but they have no Champions League to worry about. So they're completely healthy. They're willing to play these top guys longer. They have enough depth to do so as well. But again, they're invested in winning the Premier League title now because they have no other cups to worry about, no Champions League to worry about. Tottenham do have a Europa League spot to hold on to, so they're certainly going to be invested in the game, but I'll take City on the money line here, even though it's a very short turnaround.
So, like, just big picture, how do you think this plays out? Because you have Man City can take control, and they're the heavy favorite to do so, but they need to win 2 games in the next 3 days, which can be very difficult to do. So how about Arsenal's odds? Plus 225 to win the league. Your thoughts on that?
So as I mentioned earlier, I had Arsenal winning the league at the beginning of the season as a bet, and I have Arsenal to win the league without Man City as a bet as well. And that was, I believe, 275 at the beginning of the year. So even if Arsenal were to finish second, that bet would pay off for me. I think the sad thing is Arsenal do not control their own destiny. But Liverpool will be out if Arsenal win or draw. There's no way that Liverpool could win the title if Arsenal get a win or a draw. And the good news for Arsenal is that they don't necessarily need Manchester City to lose.
Okay.
Because of the goal differential, even a draw in one of these matches, even the last match of the season, as long as Arsenal keeps winning, a Man City draw would be enough to give the Gunners a championship. If you're betting futures right now, I think it's close enough to where I'd take the 225 instead of the minus 280 or whatever it is now on Man City.
Well, how about other football news of the week here? Real Madrid, my friend, and Dortmund heading to the Champions League final. So before we break that one down, give us your reaction to the semifinals from earlier in the week here.
I didn't think Dortmund would win the second leg against PSG. They've been so inconsistent, but they have played up to their competition and they are getting healthy at the right time. So they have nothing to play for in Bundesliga, and this is their sort of stretch run. So I think that was very surprising. And when it comes to Real Madrid, you can talk about the referee issues, could talk about some of the calls that didn't go Bayern's way. There's just something about Real Madrid at home. I think the soccer gods have written that Real Madrid is destined for these great comebacks at home. There's nothing else that can really explain it. They've done it so many times that it's just nature at this point.
Jimmy, I want to get to the final here, but before we ask you who has the edge, let's enjoy this sweaty little flashback from you earlier in the season.
Given how the bracket is set up, I think the value is great on Real Madrid at plus 650 because if they beat Man City, they're kind of clear.
Yeah.
But I think I would have to wait one more round to get great value on the team coming on the other side of the bracket with PSG, Barcelona, Dortmund, and Atleti, because that's a side where they really only have to win one game in that Champions League final. It's a one-leg final and anything can happen. That's the side that I think offers the most value. But if I'm going with one of the top teams, I like Real Madrid.
Chinmay, would you like to take your victory lap right now?
I'll wait one more match, I guess, because it hasn't quite paid off in the way that Dortmund have played. They've kind of snapped some big losing streaks against their rivals recently. So I'll wait one more match, but it does feel good to at least get something correct.
Yeah. So what's a bet you like,
Champions
Chinmay? What's a bet you like here then for this final clash?
So the last four finals have all been 1-0. It's kind of surprising to see that there haven't been that many goals, but you can get under 2.5 total goals at plus 115, and that's a regular time bet. So even if it finishes 1-1 and goes to extra time, that bet would pay off. But I'm going under 1.5 goals. That comes in at plus 350. You can probably lock in both, and I'm sure one of them will pay off, if not both. The last four finals have all been tight 1-0 games. I don't think there could be anything different here.
So going back to the EPL, were there any other bets that you liked ahead of this weekend?
Yeah, I think Nottingham Forest is facing relegation, probably needs one more victory or a draw to kind of get clear of that bottom three. They're taking on a Chelsea team that have been playing well, but I think are a bit of a mirage of late. So I think Forest at home on the money line plus 240 is really good. But also, if you're feeling a draw, Nottingham Forest double chance comes in at minus 130. I like Forest at home to at least get some points.
All right, let's bring it back here. Let's bring it back home stateside. Messi is just dominating Major League Soccer. So like, shocker, he comes over here and is able to take care of business against all these MLS guys. How crazy, though? Can you put this in perspective for us, just how crazy this start has been for Messi in Miami and what he's been able to do on the field? I still think back to last season. It was like a Ted Lasso kind of storyline where he took a team at the bottom of the table and almost brought them to the playoffs. So like, now we're really seeing what these dudes can do from the start of a season.
Yeah, there was a lot of confidence after last season. And unfortunately, all those games where they started winning were Leagues Cup games. They weren't even MLS games. So imagine if those were MLS games where he could have actually racked up a lot of points before the end of the season. Look, Lionel Messi is still one of the greatest players in the world. And it's crazy to think that he's doing this at his age, but he's just been that consistent over the course of his career. Having Luis Suarez there as a longtime teammate and a veteran himself, that's been really good. And it's amazing what that type of talent can do for the entire operation. When you get a player like Messi, the entire operation just gets elevated, from the supporting players to the coaching staff to the sponsors to the owners to even the fan base. Everything just changes with a player of that caliber. So it's nice to see it all coming together from Miami. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think they're in a really good spot when it comes to the postseason and MLS futures.
Yeah, I mean, hell, we saw it here in our backyard, our Boston studio. Miami came to face the Revs here at Gillette Stadium, and they opened up top of the stadium. I think they nearly sold the whole damn thing out. Like, his impact on this sport cannot be understated here. Other than Messi, though, what else has stood out to you early in the Major League Soccer season?
Real Salt Lake at the top of the Western Conference, they've had a big ownership question over the last decade and have not really looked good, have not really been that competitive. Got new ownership a few seasons ago, and it's nice to see, a small market club getting it turned around quickly. They're at the top of the West right now. We'll see how long they can hold on there, but I think Real Salt Lake has been an underrated storyline to start this MLS season.
All right, which team has been the biggest disappointment then in your eyes? Anyone come to mind?
Well, obviously the Chicago Fire have been substantially disappointing, as they were a season ago. But I think it's very early to pinpoint any major disappointments. I think LAFC have gotten off to a really poor start, though. They have not been as good as advertised coming into the season, and I had them as one of the picks to be one of the better future plays, but they have really struggled at the beginning of the season. I think they'll eventually turn it around, but it'll be interesting to see how much more they'll have to push through before eventually climbing back toward the top of that West standings.
All right, Jim, mate, it was good to have you here. Hope you enjoy your time with your family this Mother's Day weekend, my dude. Any big plans?
Nothing crazy. We're just, we'll be watching some sports, maybe having a couple good meals here and there, and just enjoying family time. Happy Mother's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
Whatever your plans are, and the team at DraftKings, hope it's a good weekend for everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I have 2 dogs, so it's a big, big Mother's Day weekend in our house. Yeah, my wife actually does expect a Mother's Day gift. Thanks, Jim May. We're going to hit up the association next. Pair of Game 3s on tap tonight. Which teams, the crew back in the other studio, expect to come out victorious? The sweat returns after this.
we're back here for hour number 2 on The Sweat. We got Steve, we got Julian, we got Claudia. Still a full hour to come, but what have we covered already? Maybe you slept in a little bit, you're feeling a little hungover. Well, you can go on YouTube.
Emerson.
That's what I was implying.
Okay.
You can go on YouTube. This is what we've covered so far. We did a little soccer talk on the last segment there, Messi's impact on Miami and some EPL bets with Chinmay. We talked about Paul Skeen's debut, that big story in MLB, best bets in the MLB. Claudia and myself gave out some best bets there, and then we talked with Pete and Jeff with some NHL picks as the Stanley Cup playoffs continue to go on here. Go to youtube.com/DraftKings for everything in the first hour. But we're going to talk about the NBA and the playoffs here. Game 3s yesterday, Game 3s today. Let's talk about some reactions to what we saw yesterday. Let's start with that Pacers game. Obviously, Pacers bring the series back 2-1. Halliburton had a really good game there with a 111-106 win. Knicks obviously still very much in control of this, minus 240 still, Julian, to win this series. Pacers, 6-point favorites at home tomorrow. What did you think about yesterday and maybe looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, so in terms of Game 3, that was a must-win game for Indy. Nobody's ever dug out of a 3-0 hole in the NBA. They were threatening to lose that game. They came out, played with a lot of energy, and then Dante DiVincenzo happened in the third quarter, and the Knicks looked like they might be running away with that game. Indy fought back, got it. Knicks playing dinged up. Brunson wasn't quite himself. No OG. So that was a game that I expected Indy to pull out, and they did. Now, the fallout there is that they got a little dinged up in the process. Tyrese Halliburton, who has been great the last couple of games, got dinged up again. There's a video floating around of him on social media, walking off the podium after the game. He looked like somebody like Emerson, who is now in their 40s, holding onto the railing, walking down the stairs off of this presser. Noticeable limp. So now we got a quick turnaround afternoon game on Sunday. Knicks still stayed within that game without Brunson at his best. I know it took some really good stuff from DiVincenzo. This would be Knicks +6 or pass for me on Sunday. Maybe the Pacers even at 2-2, but we're getting a lot of points here with the better team. And if Halliburton is not himself at all, I think that the Knicks have a pretty good chance to win outright.
My thing with this team is, and I sort of mentioned it earlier, the gas tank on them. I don't know how much is left there, especially when your best player is hurt. So I'll probably live bet this game. I think that they could come out hot to start it if that number comes down. I don't want to lay 6, but I'd lay under that. Maybe if I could get around 3, I feel a little bit more comfortable. I do lean taking the points though, as of right now, because 6 feels a bit too much. I mean, the Knicks shot better from the field in that game, 14 for 27 from 3. The issue is in the paint, 56 points to the Pacers. You mentioned the Brunson health. You can't count on DiVincenzo to drop 35. Josh Hart, 18 rebounds, huge. So, again, nothing I love from a side standpoint to start the game is probably a live for me.
All right, let's talk about the other game that we saw yesterday. Denver took the series lead in a very convincing fashion.
No, they didn't.
Here. Pardon me?
Denver's down 2-1 now.
Oh, sorry.
But they won their first game.
Sorry,
It's early.
They did do something good. You're right about that.
117-90 win yesterday, 27-point victory there. Timberwolves are going to be 3-point favorites tomorrow. What are your thoughts on this one here, Jules?
Yeah, I'm mad at myself for betting the Wolves last night. Uncharacteristic bet. You're up 2-0, you're coming home, the champs, desperation spot. That's a Nuggets spot, and I went the other way because I really bought in to what I saw in the first half of Game 2, which the Wolves just absolutely broke Denver at home in a game where Denver was trying to even the series. Jamal Murray was getting swarmed bringing the ball up court. He's getting frustrated. He embraced the hate on the road on Friday night and played really well and looked a lot more healthy than he had in Games 1 and 2. Game 4 might just be a sit back and watch spot for me. Is Minnesota going to bounce back at home? Or are the defending champs going to even this series? Because Friday night was the desperation spot. This is still a pretty desperate spot for Denver. You don't want to be down 3-1 in this series, even though you're coming back home for a Game 5 either way. This is probably going to be a game that I either sit back and get in live, or you bank on the Minnesota response and maybe go with the Wolves first half. Denver, other than that first half where they completely went off on Friday night, has played poor first halves all postseason. They've been leaving their work cut out for them, making all those comebacks against the Lakers, and then just got shattered by the Wolves in Game 2 in the first half. So it's either going to be Wolves first half for me or pass and see how the beginning of that game shakes out.
See, this is the series that I'm stuck on the most because I love Minnesota. I think they are so exciting to watch. I love what Anthony Edwards is bringing at such a young age. I talked about the dog that the Knicks have. The Timberwolves certainly have that, and I was so impressed by what they did in those first 2 games with their defense specifically to keep the Nuggets under 100 in Game 1, just 80 in Game 2. Now, we knew that Murray and Jokic were going to bounce back, right? That was sort of an outlier for them to be that quiet in the first 2. They both dropped 24 in this last game. So everything was going right for Denver and a lot of things. Almost everything was going wrong for the T-Wolves. Just 30% from the 3. Got out-rebounded 32-40. Anthony Edwards, like you said, stifled there, just 19, 6, and 5. So I'm stuck because I really do like Minnesota. I think there's good value with them overall. But I'm with you. I was tempted, as good as they looked. I knew there was going to be some regression to the mean, so I stayed away from that game too. But it is because I don't want to go against the defending champs. You know, seeing them in this next game catching 3 is a little bit tempting. Again, this might just be a live game for me, or maybe some point totals. If they brought Anthony Edwards down a little bit from that last game, I don't think they would overreact too much to that, but that could be a spot I'd look at as well.
All right, Claudia, let's talk about what's going on today here. We got Thunder at the Mavericks here. Mavericks are 2-point favorites in this one here. Mavericks scored 95 points in the last game, which is the most the Thunder has allowed in this postseason. Prior to that game, they're allowing just an average of 90 points per game. And then one of the big stories there, Luka was doing very well beyond the arc. That's something that he really struggled with, going 5 for 8 in that game. How do you feel about this one here today?
Yeah, 29, 10, and 7 for him. Curious to see Kyrie, just 9 points, 11 assists, sort of quiet there. PJ Washington happened, dropping 29, which was big. Seeing this line move a little bit, open 3. There's still a 3 out there, but mostly 2.5s across the board. I don't have a super strong lean here. Again, OKC's defense has been the best up until, that last game. They've looked really strong. SGA, again, it's sort of a gas in the tank left thing with him because he can drop 33, 12, and 8, but if it's just him and he's not getting the support, they're not going to pull through. And then on the other side too, is Luka 100%, or did he just, get a lot of Motrin in him to help him get that nice stat line the last game? I'm almost tempted to bet the under because I just feel like these teams are going to run out of gas at some point, but no strong lean for me really on either side.
Luka is at least very aware of what's going on during his pressers, though, at least. Yeah,
that was an interesting experience. Let's hope we don't have any similar errors on this show. All right, I would lean to the under in the game, like
Steve,
Claudia.
Is your sound off?
When it comes to a side. We're down to 2 on DraftKings. You mentioned the dropping number, Claudia. 2 on the Mavs. I lean Dallas. I think this is kind of going to be similar to last series. They get smoked in Game 1, come back and look good on the road in Game 2. I think they protect home court here in Game 3. The betting splits strongly disagree with me. We got 43% of the bets for 71% of the handle on OKC on the spread. That's why we've noticed it drop. So I may pass on it. I do think it's a good prop game. And I'll start with Daniel Gafford, who I've been on the whole series with points rebounds. He went for 16 points, 11 boards in Game 1, brought it back with 13 points and 7 rebounds, lesser performance, but still cashed the over on his points rebounds. It's 19.5 today. So he would have gone over by just the hook in the last game. I'm still comfortable with that. He's been dominating OKC inside. OKC doesn't have as many big bodies. Chet Holmgren, smaller guy. Gafford's been really good on the interior. If Doncic is dinged up at all, Gafford adds a little bit more offense for them. So I'll go with Gafford on the points, rebounds over. And then SGA, not that he's always playing fantastic, not that he's any better than he usually is right now, but the fact that they've essentially benched Josh Giddey and he's playing such limited minutes, he's a guy that comes in and kind of plays that role of assist man, rebounding guard, and he's not playing at the moment. So that's why you see SGA, 9 rebounds, 9 assists in Game 1, 12 rebounds, 8 assists in Game 2. his rebounds and assists prop is something I would look at, or you can just combine it all with the points, rebounds, assists.
Despite the Celtics being blown out in their last game there, they're 8-point favorites on the road here today going up against Cleveland. Both these games have been decided by more than 20 points here, but like we mentioned at the top of the show, Celtics really struggle beyond the arc here. Brown 0 for 6, White 1 for 8 in that last game.
Yeah, the Celtics go as Derek White goes right now, right? That's their guy. The Celtics are going to bounce back. I'm pretty confident of it. I like them even more on the road. They generally play well on the road in these postseason games. So I'm expecting a Tatum bounce back, 27.5 points. I don't mind 30-plus points at plus money, plus 120. I like Tatum on the rebounds. He's been crashing the glass all postseason. So essentially a big game for Tatum and a bounce-back game for the Celtics, and specifically for the Celtics out of the gate. They're going to come out playing well. Lay the 2.5 first quarter, lay the 4.5 first half. I think those are both good ways to go about it.
Claudia, Celtics still minus 1,100 to win the series, despite this being 1-1.
Yeah, the books are never going to budge on that. I really don't think so, unless we see another 24-point loss.
Celtics will be like minus 500 in the series if they lose today.
Yeah.
Which they won't.
Right.
But that would be the price.
Yeah, but no. I never see, I stay away from laying any heavy juice with them, and I stay away from Tatum's points. I know that he can drop 30. We've seen it several times, but I just
Tonight's
can't trust
one of the
him.
ones.
I just can't trust him, Jules. So I'll let you do that.
I will. Thanks.
I like what you said, though, about them playing on the road. I don't think they have any sort of home advantage here at this point in the season. So 14-14 at home in the playoffs since 2022. I like them on the road tonight. I'm going to look to Evan Mobley, though, and they are pushing this number up. We're running out of time. We got 9 seconds left, so we're going to come back with more baseball. Evan Mobley over on rebounds, though, at plus money. We'll be right back.
Still got the play in it.
fans, welcome back to The Sweat. Claudia Bellafato, Steve Buchanan, now joined by Nick Fryer, former D1 pitcher for Northwestern, to talk some bases here. It's time for Put Up Your Bukes. I'm excited, guys. This is my first time. Good to see you guys duel each. Oh,
what the hell is this background?
Are you on the beach or?
You know what, Claudia? Every time I come on the show, Steve always says something about my background because he has nothing else to say to me. He has nothing else to criticize. So he always makes fun of my background. So I just mailed it in today.
I could criticize your D1 stats.
That's fair.
I didn't know that you were a D1 player, and I asked them. I said, "Is he?" And they said, "Kinda."
Yeah, I don't brag about.
You know what, Nick? You know what? I will just say I never played in D1, so you got the one up on me. So
you do.
No matter how you did, no matter what happened, it was better than me.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Man.
I missed you too, Steve.
Idiot.
Well, we hope it's warm and sunny over there for you. Oh, here we go. Put up your bukes.
Yeah, look how jacked I am.
Is that you? Is that supposed to be you?
Why are you surprised? What were you? That was a realistic depiction. Why were you surprised?
I guess I shouldn't have been.
Do this segment.
I'm sorry.
This is unbelievable.
You have a sweater on. I can't see your muscles like that. All right, we're going to do strikeout stuff first. Steve, you like Freddie Peralta over 6 in the hook Ks against the Cardinals. Tell us why.
Yeah, this is a good spot here for Freddie Peralta going up against the Cardinals. Cardinals specifically, I think it's Brandon Donovan and Paul Goldschmidt are like 0 for the month. Like that offense is just really struggling right now. But St. Louis also has one of the highest K rates in the league, 25% going up against right-handed pitching. Peralta, main put-away pitch is his slider, and this is a pitch that the Cardinals are really struggling with so far this season here. They're not only hitting just 201 against that pitch, they have a 33% K rate against the slider coming from a right-handed pitcher here. Peralta has gone over 6.5 strikeouts in 5 of the 7 starts that he's made, including a start against the Cardinals already where he had exactly 7 strikeouts, which is what we're looking for here this afternoon. That was back on April 19th, so almost a month ago at this point, but I would think it's fair to say the Cardinals offense is in a much different spot than they were a month ago, and that's not a good thing because of how much that they are struggling. Oh, we're doing the music again. Okay, very good. But Freddie Peralta over 6.5 strikeouts this afternoon at -110.
I like it. Don't have to drink any juice. Nick, you like Cubs Justin Steele over 5.5 against the Pirates. Skeen's debut. What do you like here? Why?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Skeens, but I'm going to go with Steele on this one because he's set at 5.5, and it feels like a fishy number to me, which is why I'm leaning towards the over because he hasn't been able to work deep into games yet. I know he's coming off an injury as well, so to see it set at 5.5 feels a little high, so I am going to chase that number because the biggest thing for me is the Pirates have struck out a lot against left-handed pitching this season. They have a strikeout rate of 25.6 against left-handed pitching, so I'm all in on Steele making a nice steal in the show today against Skeens, and that was not intended to be a pun.
Was it? Because it sounded like
that looked like you had that prepared and worked it in.
It would have been a lot cleaner if I did that on purpose.
Fair.
Okay, I'm going to give this one to Steve only because I don't bet pitchers when they have a small sample size coming off of injury. I do like both plays. I do lean with you there on Steele, but I'm going to have to go Peralta. All right, pitchers, outs recorded. Let's go Nick first. Can we do that? Am I allowed
let's
to do
go
that?
Nick first. Let's go, baby.
You like Tristan McKenzie over 15 in the hook against the White Sox.
Yeah, so I also was considering him for a strikeouts prop too. I believe it was set at 5.5, which felt like a pretty generous number for him because he's gone over that in the past few games. I think it's 4 games. But I'm going to go with the outs recorded here instead because the White Sox do struggle with right-handed pitching, but they don't strike out a whole heck of a lot against right-handed pitching. So I'm going to stick here with over 15.5 outs. They're bottom 3 in average OPS ISO against right-handed pitching. So I think this is a great spot for Tristan McKenzie to do what Carrasco did last night and go over 15.5 outs.
I like that one, sir. Steve, John Means under 17.5 against the D-backs.
And Nick, you do realize that the White Sox are on a 3-game heater right now, right? Like you know that they've won 3 in a row. That's fair. Okay,
that means nothing to me. The White Sox. We're gonna start investing in the White Sox.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
You've lost your way, man.
No,
You've changed, man.
I have changed. I did bet in a positive way on Patrick Corbin the other week.
Yeah, I know.
John Means, I like him go under 17.5 outs recorded today. That's at plus money at plus 110. Talked about this at the top of the show earlier in the the show, I should say, about the D-backs. The Diamondbacks have been one of the best hitting clubs against left-handed pitching, going up against John Means today, who just recently returned from the IL. 377 WOBA, 137 WRC plus, both best in the league against lefties. That's the numbers for the Diamondbacks there. You have the three main pitches that John Means throws: changeup, four-seamer, and slider. You combine all those pitches together, the Diamondbacks are hitting 321 with a 395 WOBA and a 537 slugging percentage against those pitches there. I think this is going to be a spot where Means, who has good numbers from last year, but I think this is going to be a short outing for him today. Diamondbacks just absolutely crushing left-handed pitching so far this year.
Ugh. You're talking dirty to me with all the advanced stats, I do have to say. However, I am on the guards today. Did you see my picture
at the top of the show?
That has nothing to do with it. I'm talking baseball, man. I'm talking WRC plus. But I'm on the Guardians.
Here it is.
Oh, Jesus. All right, no, but I'm on the Guardians heavy today, so Nick, I'm with you there. Hits, runs, RBI, little combo platter. Steve, we'll go back to you. You like Marcus Semien over 2 in the hook.
Yeah, we got the Rangers in Coors Field. I like this to go over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at minus 105 here today. We got Coors Field. We got the wind blowing out. That's usually a recipe for disaster for pitching, but a good thing for the offense there. Gets his first crack hitting leadoff there, going up against Ryan Feltner, who since last year at Coors Field specifically, 6.84 ERA with a 345 WOBA at Coors Field. Semien is on a crazy hot streak right now. 10 hits over his last 3 games, which includes 2 home runs, 7 runs scored, and 6 RBI. I think that's like the usual stat line for the White Sox for an entire week.
Yeah.
Semien has done that in the last 3 games. He's just been absolutely on fire at the plate. Good spot here in Coors Field. 2.5. High number here for hits, runs, and RBI, but obviously in Coors Field, in this type of matchup, don't mind taking that there. Almost even money, minus 105 for Semien.
I do like that. All right, Nick, you like Cardinals Brewers. You're looking at Arenado over 1.5.
Yeah, I do like Steve's play, and I understand, taking Freddie Peralta on the strikeouts prop, but Nolan Arenado has had his number throughout his career, so over 1.5, easy play for me here. I even consider him for home runs too, but at the same time, he's only got 2 on the season, so I'm just going to stay here, play a little more conservatively, and still get plus money on Nolan Arenado. In 31 career plate appearances, he has taken Freddie Peralta deep 4 times. He's also hitting 357 against him. He has his number, and on top of that, Arenado is doing his best work against right-handed pitching this season. I know the 802 OPS against right-handed pitching isn't exactly mind-blowing, but he's still hitting 310 against him. So I'm backing him to go over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs.
Low number, cheap price. I like it. We are on to stolen bases, and I actually don't have the names here, so this is a surprise to me. I'm excited. Steve, what do we got?
Yeah, so stolen bases are obviously tough. A lot of things have to happen. A lot of things have to fall into place for these bets to hit here. I'm going to go with a cheapie here. Ronald Acuna at plus 130 to record a stolen base here. The Mets have allowed the most stolen bases in Major League Baseball by a wide margin. They've allowed 52 stolen bases on the year. That is 14 more than the next team in line, which is the Chicago White Sox. And they've only caught 3 potential base stealers in that span. So, it's just, if you're running against the Mets, you're more than likely going to get a stolen base here. Acuna finally looks like he's starting to turn it around. He really had a bad month of April. I say bad in air quotes here because bad for Acuna standards, but really looks like he's coming around so far in the month of May. 365 on base percentage for him so far. If he's getting on base, has those opportunities to steal a base here. So going up against the Mets, who have one of the worst catchers back there in Narvaez to throw batters out, I'd like Acuna plus 130. Low number here for stolen bases, but that's what I'm on here today.
Can I ask you, were you that guy last year who jumped on the stolen base props quickly when they made these adjustments?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And that was something that we talked about a lot in the offseason because of the bigger bases, the rules that you can only throw over a couple times. There was just so many guys that have speed. It was like a lost art. And I really felt like that was going to come to fruition last year, and it did.
I haven't kept too much of an eye on the price change. Do you feel like the market has adjusted correctly, over-adjusted, under-adjusted on that?
I feel like it's over-adjusted a little bit, but there haven't been as many stolen bases this year, at least where it was last year. But I think once we start getting into the summer months, I think we'll see more of that.
Okay. All right, Nick, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Bryce Durang, who's up there in terms of stolen bases as well. And I know he's coming off of back-to-back games with stolen base, which is why his numbers probably juiced up a little bit, because maybe not as likely for him to do it 3 games in a row, but we have seen him do that already this season, and he's got a 385 on base percentage against right-handed pitching. Like Steve said, you got to have a lot going right for you, and he's got to get on base for us first, so he's in a good spot to get on base going up against Kyle Gibson. And I know William Contreras has thrown some dudes out to start the season. He has a good arm, but at the same time, the rate he's throwing guys out right now is not sustainable. So I'm taking Durang to steal a bag today.
Rapid fire dinger. We're talking quick. Let's go, Steve.
Fernando Tatis Jr. plus 370 to go deep, specifically against James Paxton here. Huge jump in his fly ball rate this year. 37% last year with Boston, 45% this year with the Dodgers. Give me Tatis to go over that home run number today.
All right, Nick.
Yandy Diaz, he has been working lately, and he does well against left-handed pitching. He loves Nestor Cortez. A couple of home runs, 3 doubles, and 28 career plate appearances against him, 370 average. So Diaz taking him deep again tonight.
I am so impressed, guys. You just whipped right through that, and I'm with you. I will fade Nestor Cortez any chance that I do get. We have PGA Tour chat coming up next. I'm excited to listen to that. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody. I am Emerson Latzia. This time next week, we will be gearing up for the third round of the PGA Championship, so the second major of the season. That tees off on Thursday, by the way, which is why we have our gorgeous golf guru here, Mr. Jeff Ulrich, trying to help us out, trying to help us navigate some early bets here on the DK Sportsbook. Jeff, we're back at Valhalla for the first time since 2014. We know Rory won the last time. That was his last major here. This course is a beast. So I'm looking at the scorecard here. Par 71. It's playing extremely long on the scorecard, Jeff. More than 7,600 yards. You need big game pedigree here to win. So which type of golfer are you looking to target for this layout?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen Valhalla a couple times on the PGA Championship, but just to let you know, like those past tournaments did take place in August as well, a little bit more humid. The greens were more receptive. I'd be expecting in May a little bit firmer greens as well, potentially, the rough grown up. So, I mean, and they've added 200 yards of length as well. So I'm really expecting this course to play tough, which just means, we need the big bombers, the guys who have really good long irons, the guys who can get the ball out of the rough quickly. And I mean, it really does look like it's just going to be another premier Brooks Koepka setup.
Oh.
I mean, a player who can bomb it off the tee. When he's on, he can hit fairways and put it out there 320. And he can get his irons out of the rough better than anyone. He's just a strong guy. So, looking for good long iron play, yes. But I mean, we need players who can really just obviously, be able to get the ball up and hold these greens. Hitting greens in regulation is going to be big. Rory obviously won here in 2014. I just don't know if the course is going to play as receptive and be quite as good for Rory as it was in that vein. So looking for players with that big strength. I think Bryson DeChambeau is another name who potentially may benefit from this course. So
just because of his strength?
The length off the tee.
You're talking.
What's that?
I said because of his strength here, because of how long that rough's going to be. Because we talked about it before we came on air here. He has not looked great. Talking Bryson here, the past couple tournaments over on Live after his Masters performance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's something to consider for Bryson. He doesn't have the win. I mean, Brooks Koepka is the guy coming off the win on the Live Tour. Bryson obviously had the really good Masters where he looked great in round one, and I like the way he competed. So I wouldn't completely write Bryson off personally. Yes, you would have liked to see more from him in between on those Live starts, but this is just what we get. It's going to be volatile with the Live players. They don't have as many starts. They're playing in, a little bit more volatile fields in 3-round tournaments. So I'm not as worried about it with Bryson, but certainly it's something to keep in mind. Also, keep in mind, you're probably going to see some more drift on Bryson. I do like the way he sets up this course. I really do. I think this is going to be another chance for him, potentially even looking down, another guy like Will Zalatoris, who's just great ball striker, going to hit a ton of fairways and greens.
Yes. Pushed that on the show last week, Jeff. Thanks for backing me up on that. Let's get back to Brooks Koepka real quick because he's trying to go back-to-back at the PGA for the second time in his career. That's extremely impressive here because it's not like the Masters, same course every year. The layout, the course changes every year with these tournaments here. He said the other day after that win in Singapore, which I believe he's now the first Live golfer to win 4 tournaments on that tour, that he's got his swagger back because he was so down after his poor performance at the Masters. And we all know he's a big game hunter, loves to perform at majors. So my guess he lands near the top of your betting card, you tell me.
Really does. I mean, it's such a battle with these Live guys. We don't have huge sample sizes off them, and it's always sort of a case to fade them because we don't see him as much. We know the strokes gain data, but what really argument do we have against Brooks Koepka? These setups, while they do change and the course rota changes, they are absolutely set up for Brooks Koepka for success. They're kind of U.S. Open style with the big rough. Long golf courses. This is what Brooks Koepka wants every week. This is the kind of championship kind of course that he wants. So, I think that there's a really good argument, like a plus 1,600. Why is he bigger in odds than Rory McIlroy, who hasn't won a major since 2014? Absolutely. I like Brooks Koepka plus 1,600. I think that the lives thing and just the fact we don't have that big data set on him is part of what's holding his odds just down a little bit and still available at a pretty decent price tag. So, I think that Brooks, when you look at the top of the board, if you're not going to take the short number on Scheffler, which I don't necessarily love doing this week either, I think Brooks makes a lot of sense to start betting cards with this week.
I feel like Koepka's going to be Liv's best hope to win a major this year. You mentioned Scotty, you mentioned Rory. They are atop the board here. What are the chances we see them dueling it out come Saturday and come Sunday here, Jeff? And, keep in mind that this tournament is typically tight here. Over the last decade, the PGA Championship has the smallest margin of victory of all 4 majors. So you're going to have guys who are prepared for that pressure-packed moment coming down the stretch. You think it's going to be Scheffler and maybe Rory, a little head-to-head throwdown?
Yeah, look, I mean, just because I mentioned their odds and like maybe they're not quite as appealing as Brooks Koepka, it doesn't mean I'm writing these guys off either. Rory's coming off a win at the Zurich. He's playing well. He's played well, just leading into the PGA Tour as well, PGA Championship, excuse me. And obviously Scheffler is Scheffler. So we could very easily see these two on Sunday going head to head. Again, just from an odds perspective, do I want to bet both of them? No, I mean, you can't do that. They're way too short, but certainly Rory has had a lot of success here. I think with Scheffler is a little bit of an unknown just because, obviously didn't play the week before at the Wells Fargo, but certainly has been in great form. I think we could get some kind of head-to-head battle. You throw Brooks Koepka in there, maybe some underdog, and I think that you're going to get another close event. We saw Bob May and Tiger Woods obviously go at it way back when. I believe it was in 2000. When Tiger won the PGA.
That's when he did the walk-in, right? There's the putt, and he did the little walk-in.
The walk-in, the magical roll out of the bush in the playoffs. That was a really good event. I think we could get another event like that. I think Valhalla is a really interesting course. It's got the closing par 5, which adds volatility. And I certainly think that you're going to see, potentially a couple of these players like kind of go head-to-head, as the tournament rolls on. So whether it be Scheffler and McIlroy, I don't know, but I mean, certainly golf could use that, and I think the PGA Tour would welcome a showdown like that.
Scotty versus the field. Who would you take right now?
We'll take the field in this one.
All right,
I think that the PGA Championship. I think that the PGA Championship setup it takes away a little bit of Scheffler's best game. He's not necessarily wants to go out there and be the power player like Brooks Koepka and heave it out of the rough all the time.
Okay.
I think it's going to put a little bit more stress on him and potentially just even it out a little bit. So going against Scheffler for the second straight major here, I'm sure things will work out fine for me.
Hey, listen, he hasn't won a major outside of Augusta, so let's see him get it done. Speaking of that field, who would you consider to be undervalued right now in the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, I mean, okay, you're looking at the odds. I mean, obviously talked about Bryson a bit. I do like him, but I think you can wait until the week of. You'll probably see his odds drift a little bit. I think looking at the odds right now, Colin Morikawa, another player, by the way, who has won the PGA Championship and won it on a longer par 70 at TPC Arden Park where the rough was up, where you had to handle yourself with long irons. I think plus 2,800 for a guy who, again, was one of the only people who pushed Scheffler at the Masters seems like a really fair number. Morikawa maybe doesn't have like the brute strength that like a Brooks Koepka does, but he makes up for it because his long irons are just absolutely fantastic when they're on. And we've seen more of that old Colin Morikawa of late. He's putted better as well. I really do like this price. He's almost double Brooks Koepka, which again, for another PGA Championship winner, just seems a little bit absurd, especially considering his form is back. Don't forget that people used to talk about this guy potentially being kind of in that next Tiger vein, just how good he hit those irons. And I think on a course where Tiger kind of won, depending on the strength of his long irons, taking a long look at Morikawa this week at this price makes plenty of sense to me.
I mean, because of the way the PGA of America sets up this tournament every year, cream nearly always rises to the top at this major. Which long shots could be part of that group this year, Jeff, as we go further down the board? Anyone worth taking a shot on?
Well, let's not forget the history of this championship, too. Even just recently, Mito Pereira, who was like 200-1 the week of, walked into the 18th hole with a one-shot lead 2 years ago on another tough setup in Southern Hills. And obviously we know the story, hit it into the water. And Justin Thomas thanked him on Netflix for doing that. But we've seen long shots win the PGA Championship. Keegan Bradley did it way back in the day.
He did it as a rookie.
This is the
he was a rookie then.
As a rookie, exactly. I mean, like this is the one where don't be shocked if we get some guy just running the table here. I'll throw out a couple names. I mean, we mentioned Will Zalatoris at plus 5,000. I think that's a really good number. Zalatoris, obviously took a week off just to make sure his back is okay, but he has shown some pretty top form at a couple spots this year and on tougher golf courses. Definitely like that price. Byung-Hun An is another player. Again, if you're looking for like the Cinderella story, the guy getting his first major win or just his first PGA win, at a major, he's a very quality player. He's a top amateur when he was growing up. He's hitting his long irons extremely well right now. And he's very strong off the tee. He's plus 8,000. I think that's a good number for him. And I'll go even deeper. Taylor Moore is another guy to keep an eye on. I really think Taylor Moore could develop into like kind of an elite player one day. He's got a lot of strengths about his game. He's a good putter. I think a plus 15,000, that's kind of who I would gravitate towards there in odds. So 3 names to keep an eye on. Obviously all longer shots. They're probably not all going to work out. But if I was looking for players longer in the odds, those are 3 names I would definitely take an eye on.
Jeff Ulrich, thank you for the time. We'll talk to you on the Sweat next weekend as we're breaking down some of the rounds of the PGA Championship. We've spent the past hour and a half, hour 45 minutes or so sweating. So let's hit the cool down next after the break.
Welcome back to the final block here on The Sweat. Steve, Julian, Claudia, we're going to bring you, kind of wrap things up here on the show, get into a little bit of whatever you guys want to get into here as we do what we like to call the cool down here. We know we've done a lot of betting, we've done a lot of talk here. Now's our time to kind of decompress. Hope we don't have parking tickets and we mosey our way out of here when all is said and done. Guys, let's talk about this like NBA coaching carousel, I guess you can say, that's been going on, specifically when it comes to coaching teams that have to do with LeBron James or Kevin Durant. Obviously, it was we got the Suns' new coach who just came out almost immediately after that they was vacated there. But any thoughts on the coaching change there for the Suns?
I mean, it was essentially Kevin Durant or Frank Vogel. Phoenix had to choose between that. And even if they wanted to choose Vogel over Kevin Durant, which in the NBA it's a players' league, you're not going to choose a coach over Kevin Durant. But even if they wanted to, they are so locked into that core, I'm not sure that they would be able to. I'm not sure how tradable Kevin Durant is. I'm sure you could find something,
Sure.
but would it be something you want, 15 months or whatever after you acquired him? Bradley Beal on that contract is untradeable. Devin Booker's tradable. Everybody wants to build around Devin Booker. Do you want to give up the piece that you have that you can build around? No. So with those contracts, they don't have a first-round pick till the 2030s. Seriously.
No.
And then you've got Nurkic. You paid Grayson Allen. These contracts you have, there's not much wiggle room for roster shakeup unless you find a Durant suitor. It looks like they're not going to go that way because they got rid of the coach. They're going to bring in Budenholzer, which I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but this is where the Suns are. They're just kind of stuck in mud. You run it back with what you got and hope that mixing it up from a coaching standpoint is going to make you better.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns were one of the favorites at the top of the board at the beginning of the season, and I sort of bought into that hype thinking they had some semblance of a big three, and it just didn't work. They had zero chemistry. I agree with you. It's a players' league. I don't think that's a coach's issue. To some degree, of course, but I don't think Budenholzer being there is going to do much. You talked about the fact that KD is sort of a tough trade. Well, if you're looking to fire your coach, you should probably bring in KD because 6 different coaches now he's had. That's the issue with major stars like him and LeBron, though. The expectations are set so high that if you don't meet them, well, no, it's not the player's fault, it's the coach. And that's what we saw in this situation. So, I don't think it's fair. That does suck for him, but that's the game. I just know that I stayed away from betting the Suns team after all the hype in the beginning of the season. It didn't take long for me to want to stay away.
And Jules, we talked about this, was it last week? We were talking about the Lakers head coaching change here. JJ Redick, who obviously
Didn't take long.
is affiliated here with podcasts here, also does a podcast with LeBron James. So easy connection here. It was plus 240, was it, when this first came
Plus
out?
260 last week when we talked about it on this
Yeah.
show for JJ Redick to be the Lakers head coach.
Then it moved to...
Minus 180. And Budenholzer, by the way, was the favorite when we were talking about it last week.
And
He's
now
got a job.
it's-
Charles Lee got the Hornets job that JJ Redick was rumored to get. Now it's off the board because JJ Redick, like I said last week, is going to be the coach of the Lakers. You should have gone and bet it.
Closing line value, baby.
We got to go to the job interview. It was his podcast with LeBron.
Yeah.
That was the
Right.
job interview. We got to watch it. LeBron likes JJ Redick a lot, and JJ Redick's a great hire, in my opinion, because he's a recent player that knows the game. He's going to have the respect of the room, and he knows the X's and O's. He checks all the boxes if you're looking for a coach in the NBA right now.
Would he be the youngest coach? Close, right? 39?
Some other guy, what's Charles Lee that just left the Celtics bench to go to the Hornets?
Oh,
somewhere?
yeah, true.
He's also
gonna say
39. He's
39,
also 39.
Okay.
yeah. Young.
Missoula, Missoula's 30.
I was just going to say, Missoula's
I don't think
35.
36.
I was going to say
Joe.
Missoula's the youngest.
Missoula's still the
35,
youngest.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping if a DraftKings podcast host got the Lakers job, it was going to be me, but
You were close.
settle
You
for
were
JJ
second,
Redick.
I heard.
Yeah, you were in the running.
Do we think that he can still do the LeBron podcast? That's what I'm thinking. I feel like that wouldn't be allowed, but they just started.
Why not? It's just players can do podcasts. Coach can do a podcast.
Yeah, I would say if it's
Coach
just
player
a
podcast.
Yeah, if it's just like a obviously no betting, of
Right.
course. But if
Might
it's
not
just
wanna
a
reveal. Well, that one they don't even talk betting on that one anyway. So.
right,
Right.
I would
it's
think
just-
you should still be able to
At
do
that point, like they're drawing up plays all the time. At that point, the only reason that they would pull that, I would think, would maybe be to just keep their own playbook off.
I was going to say people
off
are
the
going to
internet.
Yeah. People are going to dig so deep into that.
I would say though, like with how interesting a podcast would be, because we talk about like obviously Netflix does documentaries like they're doing the Red Sox right now, but like Redick and LeBron in season. I mean, that could be, you know what I mean?
Oh, it'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be some
sick for us.
in-season stuff.
Or you keep the podcast, draw up a bunch of fake plays, and then go out there.
This
really
is what we're going to do, yeah.
Claudia, any closing thoughts here on the NBA? Like any bets that you like that you didn't get into? Any just thoughts on the games today? Wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I like Evan Mobley's points prop. I think at 15 in the hook, obviously they've been pushing this up since he's stepped up in Allen's absence, but I do like the plus money, plus 102 to the over. Like I mentioned, they sort of let them do whatever they wanted in the paint. The rebounds were big for him. 21 and 10 in the win, 17 and 13 in the other game. So I think this is probably more of a price thing for me. I just like the plus money, but he's seemed to get into a rhythm in both games so far, so I like him to do so in game 3.
I know a couple times you talked about you want to see how games play out today or whatnot. Is there any value in any futures like conference winner or anything like that, depending upon what happens today, or just a completely different direction you want to go into?
Maybe only in the West if you believe one way or another in Denver or Minnesota, and I do think one of those teams will come out. Is if you think Denver's back alive, I think they're like around 8-1 to win it all. If you were high on the Wolves coming into this game and you think they're still going to win this series, but just coughed one up. Now you can get a little bit better of a number on them there. So 7-1 on the Nuggets, 4-1 on the Wolves. Those jump out a little bit because I do think one of those teams is going to be in the NBA Finals. But for NBA today, I'm sticking to the East. I'm sticking to the Celtics. I would play them honestly any which way tonight. First quarter, first half, full game. I'll probably have some combination of those. I'll have a combination of Tatum rebounds and Tatum points. I think it's that game for them, where they bounce back from not just a Game 2 loss, but an embarrassing Game 2 loss. Go on the road where I think they're going to play really well, and they have played really well coming off of home losses over the last couple years. Before you go to the Celtics homer part, didn't lay any points with them in Game 1, didn't lay any points with them in Game 2. This is the spot where you want to lay points with the Celtics.
Good, because you would have cried. Because it sounds like you haven't had the best. And if you laid 13 and a half, that would have been.
I still wanted them to win. I have a series spread on them.
Sure.
And I did play one first half team total. But otherwise, it's been props. This is the spot where you want to get in on the Celtics.
I'm looking at this team total points. You said betting them every which way. I did bet them in that game instead of laying the 13 in the hook. I usually look to a team total for the heavy favorites, and they boosted it all the way up to 113 and a half, which I didn't mind because they dropped 120 with a quiet Tatum in Game 1. They've dropped it down now to 109 in the hook, 120 to the over. So, I mean, I don't really mind paying that juice. I think that's a fair play, the fact that it has come down, because I think we're all in agreement that they have a bounce back here.
Okay, just for MLB
or not.
Today.
Okay.
I just like Steve's transition. Here, I'll tee you up so you feel a little more comfortable. Steve, anything else you like on the MLB board today?
Thank you. We talked about the Diamondbacks a lot here on this show. Really like them going up against John Means, like the team total there. If you want to get on that, because like I mentioned, Diamondbacks against lefties has been extremely strong. One play I did not get to, but I like as well, is the first 5 over for the Astros and the Tigers. We got Christian Javier going up against Tariq Skubal in that one. You know, obviously Skubal has been fantastic to start the year. There was some Cy Young chatter about him very, very early on. But despite the Astros being as bad as they are, only a couple of wins separate them and the White Sox right now for record-wise. But as for as bad as they've been, they are still really good against lefties, and that is really where I kind of worry about this start here for Skubal. The Tigers are minus 135 on the money line here today, but I do like the over in the first 5 at 3.5. So we got Christian Javier, who really kind of feels like they're rushing him back. Obviously, the Astros rotation has had a number of injuries. At one point this season, the entire rotation for the Astros was on the IL. Then they bring these guys back. Justin Verlander just got smacked by the Yankees the other day. Christian Javier is making his way back, going against the Tigers. Not a great spot here. So I like the over 3.5. What?
Here we go.
Look at that. I'm interrupted here because
my face looks like the basketball over here, the DraftKings basketball in the corner. It's just completely round.
Yeah, that's
Steve, this is hidden jewels over here. My face is just a basketball.
You're just a floating
And
head.
Meanwhile, Steve, I know, but it could be a little more formed of like a jawline or something. Steve's over here, Mike Tyson in his prime.
Yeah, but you gotta hit leg day.
Pop the top, Steve. Let's
what
see.
did you say? I got to what?
You gotta hit leg day. That's too much top.
That's true, but I think the top is what matters.
At least there's a bunch of money next to my face. That at least adds up.
Bunch of money. There's like 5 coins.
Yeah, there's 5 coins.
It's gold. That's valuable.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, you got the floor wiped by you yesterday.
Yeah, I got mopped. Full transparency. I think it's the worst NBA betting day I've had since I started posting plays to Twitter in 2019. I went 0-7.
Damn.
That's a good lead-in for the next show on VSiN. So if anybody who doesn't usually watch, great way for us to promote the show. Worst betting day in history for Julian. You should definitely come back tomorrow
That means
and listen to this show.
It does mean we're going to come the other way. We're going to be fine.
All right, we'll
ebbs
be
and
back
flows.
here tomorrow. Same.
I'm going to
crew
go
here.
work on chiseling my jawline for tomorrow.
Well, let us know how it looks. We'll be back
Okay.
here tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. here on DraftKings Network, VSiN. Steve, Claudia, Julian. We'll see you tomorrow.